July 24, 1943. 22:10 hours. North of Hamburg, within the dim-lit control bunker at Stade, Luftwaffe radar officers lean toward their Würzburg scopes. The room smells of dust, sweat, and cigarettes flattened into ashtrays that never cool. Generator hum presses behind every heartbeat. A technician adjusts a tuning dial, the green trace pulsing over the circular glass. Contact, bearing 228, Hohe 7000, he says, voice calm from practice. Another blip blooms. Then another. The Kammhuber line, the once pristine defensive net of overlapping radar and flak zones stretching from Denmark to France, is awake again. Somewhere out over the North Sea, Royal Air Force bombers are coming. Oberleutnant Friedrich Meyer, the duty controller, lifts his head from the plotting table. Report to Himmelbett Sector F, confirm tracks. Ready the night fighters at Stade and Schleswig. A sergeant relays through the field phone to the radio room, threading messages along wires stringing half of Germany. The Würzburg circles fill with new pips, 30, 40, 50. Then, without warning, the trace wobbles, blooms bright, and turns to static. The blips scatter, multiply, dissolve into snow. What's happened? The technician blurts, twisting gain knobs. Range ghosting? No, Meyer snaps. Filter the interference. But filtering changes nothing. Every frequency band returns the same shimmering chaos. The entire radar net, the line that has guided Germany's night fighters for 3 uninterrupted years, is blind. Somewhere above that chaos, RAF Pathfinders of 35 and 156 squadrons thunder through night cloud at 19,000 feet. Their Lancaster bombers carry not only magnesium markers and 500-pounders but something new, bundles of thin aluminum strips, each exactly 27 centimeters long, cut to a quarter wavelength of Germany's Würzburg radar. The bundles ride in canvas bags beside the flare racks. The men call it window. Squadron leader Charles McIntyre grips the intercom throat mic. Stand by for first drop. On my mark. Inside the fuselage, the bomb aimer kneels by the open chute, wind blasting up from the darkness, hands clutching a sack the size of a pillow. Dropping window, now. The bag tumbles into night and bursts open, scattering hundreds, then thousands of metallic ribbons. They shimmer down like silver confetti, caught in the updrafts and the slipstream, each falling piece a perfect mirror. Within seconds the ribbons paint the air like snowflakes, every radar pulse rebounding from each strip as if an entire squadron occupied every point of the sky. In their dim bunkers, radar operators try to reason with the storm blooming across their screens. Freya long-range sets at Heligoland and Stade erupt in tangled echo cloud. Würzburg control radars, normally sharp enough to lock on a single bomber, now show entire quadrants alight. The plotters' pencils can't keep pace. 100 zeal, impossible, the radar officer curses, dragging a cigarette. They can't all be real. Night fighter Gruppen scramble anyway, Bf 110s and Ju 88s clawing upward into darkness they can no longer read. The Himmelbett guidance tables are useless. Searchlights wander blind cones across a sky now thick with phantom contacts. Over the radio waves hissing through the bunker comes a strained voice from a pilot. Ground control, this is Falk Red. No radar vectors, repeat, no fix. Everything's white. Meyer presses the headset to his ear, sweat slipping down his temple. Maintain search pattern, he orders, the words hollow even as he says them. Out on the plotting desk, his clerk hesitates with the grease pencil, hand trembling, then sets it down. There's nothing left to plot. Outside, at 19,000 feet, McIntyre's Lancaster pierces cloud cover. Beneath him, Hamburg lies ink-black and waiting. Through the Astrodome, crewmen glimpse a glint of moonlight off the Elbe River. Behind, the main bomber stream grows, 728 aircraft in all, the largest attack bomber command has ever fielded. The sky hums with engines. Navigator Flight Lieutenant Owen Dyer checks the course. We're clear through the corridor, no flak yet. God, they don't see us. They see something, McIntyre murmurs, scanning the horizon. Just nothing they can shoot. 2 minutes later, the master bomber's voice crackles over VHF, all Pathfinder aircraft, mark target, green TI. Main force follow. Hamburg is open. The first string of target indicators falls from the lead mosquitoes, stabbing phosphorescent lines through the black. Flares blossom by the river, floating in tandem like twin suns reflecting in glass water. The sky opens, and Lancaster and Halifax bombers peel from formation into shallow dives, their bomb bay doors yawning wide. In every ground control bunker from Hanover to Bremen, the officers shout for visual confirmation. Spotters at the periphery glance toward the west and see nothing. Only a strange silver fog swirling against the stars, glinting faintly, drifting out of the wind like ash made of light. They call higher command at Flensburg. The reply comes curt and uncertain. All Luftnachrichten stations report blindness. Würzburg and Freya nets unserviceable. Broadcast to all units, adopt Plan B, visual intercept only. Plan B, everyone knows, is fantasy. By 23:45, the first bombs reach Hamburg proper. Pathfinder flares silhouette whole city blocks. Each glow pulse mirrors again off the metallic haze, lighting the underside of the bombers like actors on a stage lit from below. Flak batteries fire by sound alone, gun captains sweating under brass casings that clatter into drifts. For every tracer that finds its way upward, a dozen bombs answer downward. Inside the bunker near Stade, Meyer watches the empty scope crackling white and feels something cold settle where training used to be. "We can't fight what we can't see," he mutters, the phrase lost amid static. Outside, across the Elbe, the night begins to burn. July 25, 1943. 0:37 hours. The second wave has crossed the coast, heavy bombers stretched in disciplined ranks that reach from Bremerhaven to Heligoland, each aircraft invisible to radar but naked in the eyes of German air raid wardens below. The sound reaches Hamburg first, a low rolling growl like distant thunder that grows into a living thing. In the city's command bunker beneath the Ulster Pavilion, Civil Defense Chief Karl Kaufmann wipes condensation from his glasses and peers at the wall chart. Reports flicker up from telephone stations in vowels distorted by panic. Fire at Harburg Rail Yard. Strike near Rothenburgsort. Water mains hit at Den Haag. He asks for confirmation, again, and one operator, exhausted and grey, says simply, "Sir, the whole east is burning." Above them, the four-engine giants draw grid lines in flame. Each Lancaster lets fall sticks of cookies, 4,000-pound high explosives designed not to destroy by shrapnel but to burst roofs, to open lungs in brick and plaster for the smaller incendiaries to follow. In their holds, 1,000 tons of magnesium, phosphorus, thermite, and oil-filled canisters that turn air itself into a weapon. At 19,000 feet, Flight Lieutenant Owen Dyer's Lancaster moves through convulsive air, downdrafts from the explosions reaching like fists. He steadies his oxygen mask with a shaking hand. Target below, the bomb aimer calls over the intercom, voice thin. Markers perfect. Dyer looks down through cloud breaks. A sea of orange ripples outward, Hamburg Speicherstadt, the warehouse district, now unrecognizable. Bomb doors open, Dyer answers. All gone. God help them. The night flickers with white glare. When the bombs strike, the ground pumps light upward. Trees burst. Roofs lift whole, tilt, and settle in slow motion into the fire cloud. Dust and flame merge until streets vanish. The magnetic compasses in some aircraft swing wildly, the fire's own magnetism disrupting everything man-made. Over Eppendorf and Hammerbrook, the magnesium cascades fall in shimmering curtains that would be beautiful if not for the sound, the steady, audible roar of a city's air, superheated and climbing somewhere beyond the measure of temperature. Hamburg's brick facades begin to glow from within like charcoal lit under a bellows. Inside the Siemens factory works on Ruhrstrasse, a fire warden crew drags hoses toward broken skylights. They drown one fire only to have sparks ignite their hair and coveralls. The water pressure drops, the pumps are gone. A man opens a hydrant and gets only steam. Outside, the storm feeds itself. As the high explosives finish their work and the incendiaries take over, the air column forms its own gale. The fireblast drags oxygen through the streets, turning alleys into wind tunnels that blast at 150 miles per hour. Trees fall flat in the suction. Flames rush low and fast, blue at the edges where they eat the pavement. It is not wind anymore. It is breath, the city's last. In the control bunker north of the river, Oberleutnant Mayer listens to the scratch of radio static where his radar maps once spoke. Calls from Bf-110 night fighters scratch through, no fix, blinded, fuel low. One pilot, voice steady only by training, says, "I see their exhausts but they vanish when I turn. I can't find my base." Mayer lowers the headset. Through a crack in the shelter door he can see the eastern horizon bloom red and pulse. He understands, finally, that whatever window is, it is not weapon or trick, it is revolution. Over the bay, the bombers will for home, their payload spent, the mirror snow still falling from their bomb bays like a quiet afterthought. Henry Hall's orchestra plays on one crew's intercom tape loop for courage. The navigator looks back through the Astrodome once and mutters, "It looks like we've lit another sun." For the German fire brigades, the night lasts forever. The air raid sirens falter when cables melt off the towers. At 2 o'clock, command orders shift teams across the Elbe, but every bridge burns or collapses. Water barges wait helpless at docks blocked by flaming debris. The Luftwaffe's units move by bicycle through heat so intense their tires explode. By 3 o'clock the firestorm becomes total, it generates its own weather. Embers rise 10,000 feet, where returning bomber crews mistake them for anti-aircraft bursts. Lightning crackles inside the smoke mass as iron gutters vaporize. Surviving observers say the air flashed white inside the clouds, backlighting whole streets in ghost daylight. In one air raid shelter on Bessenbinderhof, a mother fans a child with a folded map, gulping for air that will not come. The sound outside is an animal, continuous, the scream of burning. Above them, roof vents draw in air and flame alike. The protective blast doors buckle inward. The world turns red. By dawn, Bomber Command's main force lands back across England at dispersal fields from Lincolnshire to Yorkshire. Ground crew count them in silence, marking returns in chalk on hangar walls. Wing commanders walk between aircraft streaked black with half-burned soot, oxygen valves frosting in the morning chill. They listen to men trying to describe what they saw and fail to find the words. At 6 o'clock, Hamburg is a false sunrise, glowing long after its own. The next morning, in his command HQ outside Berlin, General Joseph Kamhuber studies reports dripping with disbelief. A radar chain erased. A fighter control system paralyzed. Whole sectors reporting nothing but snow. He underlines one phrase in red, "The enemy has found the key to invisibility." Across the channel, at High Wycombe, Air Chief Marshal Sir Arthur Bomber Harris pencils a note to his deputy. Window successful. Enemy radar blinded throughout the engagement. Proceed with remainder of Gomorrah schedule. 2 nights later, with the Luftwaffe still blind, the RAF comes again. July 27, 1943. Midnight has just rolled past, and Hamburg lies under another sky of phosphorescent orange. The Luftwaffe never recovered the radar plots. The Kamhuber line, the engineered order between chaos and ruin, is still blind, every Würzburg set deaf to the air. For the third night, Bomber Command's pathfinders enter Germany unchallenged, guided by moonlight and the memory of yesterday's smoke. From the mouth of the Elbe, the city glows on the horizon like a lantern sinking beneath cloud. Inside one of those clouds, Flying Officer Ted Lawson checks his course corrections against the map light. The air smells of grease pencil and sweat. His navigator stares down the drift sight, counting seconds. Markers visible, he calls. Over Hellbrook, good color. Bomb doors open, Lawson orders. He feels the thump under his boots as another 4,000-pounder drops away. The contrails from the other Lancasters shimmer silver against the fire below. The windows are still blinding them, the rear gunner asks over the intercom. Like throwing snow in their eyes, Lawson mutters, and banks north. Over Hamburg, the fire is no longer a collection of burns but a living engine. The massive detonation on Saturday night split water mains, burst tram lines, and ignited storerooms still filled with timber from wartime repairs. By now everything combustible is part of the same breath. The air in the city center ripples upward at 800 degrees Celsius, forming a vortex over Hammerbrook and Billhorner Canal. Whole buildings lift in pieces, doors, beams, staircases, drawn skyward by the updraft. A fire inspector named Otto Voigt scrawls notes by torchlight before the batteries die. Wind circular. Cannot enter Hammerbrook. Temperature unbearable. Oxygen deficiency. Hearing the roar. Children sheltering in sewers. He never finishes the next page. Witnesses later report the sound before they remember the sight, like 1,000 chimneys sighing at once, or a freight train circling the horizon, its wheels grinding air instead of rails. People run because everyone else runs, but the direction doesn't matter, the fire travels faster. The storm center moves along the wind corridors of the old city, feeding on the same shapes that gave refuge a century before. At 1:15, Fire Chief Albert Pretzel radios City Hall. "We have no control," he says through static before the line drops. By then the firestorm's own gravity has pulled in air from 20 kilometers around. Roof tiles spin like meteors. Pigeons catch fire mid-flight and fall as lines of sparks. The color in the sky brightens to white-orange. Inside the cellars, people choke. Street shelters that saved them during earlier raids now become furnaces. Survivors later relearn words: asphyxiation, heat collapse, vacuum. The city burns faster than it can die. To the north, bombers still rumble past in precise trails. Some crews glance down, seeing patches of red so bright their metal blisters. Blast turbulence flips a few Halifaxes onto their sides. Gunners report sparks that strike up through the bomb bays, bursts of oxygen igniting on contact with exhaust. Navigator Owen Dyer, who flew the first Gomorrah wave, will remember later, "It looked alive, like a thing that wanted to reach us and pull us in." At dawn, the bombers turn home, leaving behind pockets of flame that stretch for miles. Hamburg is blanketed in a single sound, a vast, low groan of burning that won't quiet for days. The firestorm has consumed 8 square miles, melted asphalt, fused tram rails into curls of iron, and starved whole districts of air before they ever caught flame. By midday, smoke shafts climb into the stratosphere, black merging with silver, so high that American reconnaissance pilots over the North Sea mistake it for weather. Char, dust, ash. Heat still radiates from the city's core 30 hours later, warping air like a mirage. In the north, Luftwaffe generals still scramble for answers. General Kemhuber reviews intercepted RAF reports, words like window effective, enemy blinding complete. The implications are unbearable. His technical officers pace with hollow eyes, realizing that the radar network painstakingly built since 1940, a chain of listening eyes, can now be silenced with a handful of foil. Each Würzburg site makes the same report: noise field observed. Signals unrecoverable. German scientists quickly measure the strips, aero-silvery aluminum, roughly 2 centimeters wide, 27 long. Nothing exotic. Just cheap mirrors made of tinfoil and calculation. They name it double, reverse engineer it in weeks, but the damage is already done. At RAF High Wycombe, a single photograph from reconnaissance unspools across a table. The image shows concentric rings of ruin, smoke still coiling over the gutted city. Air Chief Marshal Sir Arthur Harris holds the print between his fingers, head bent. "They didn't see a thing," he murmurs. "And now the world will." Behind him, one of the intelligence officers clears his throat and says quietly, "Sir, reports estimate 43,000 dead." Harris doesn't answer. He sets the photo down carefully, edges aligned, and walks to the map room where red pins mark the next targets. On the ruins of Hamburg, rain begins to fall, a thin chemical gray that hisses when it touches steel. For days, the rivers will run dark. Civilians wander the outskirts with eyes pink from smoke, stepping around shell craters filled with water the color of ink. Entire blocks lie under melt glass. In one surviving attic in the district of Altena, a man finds sheets of metallic foil twisted around roof beams and gutters, shining faintly through soot. He peels off a strand and turns it in weak sunlight. It glitters, it is weightless. He pockets it without knowing its name. Across Europe, in radar vaults and control rooms, men now scour for an answer to that weightless thing, the invention that silenced a continent's defense in a single night. Window has opened, and nothing, not even signal noise, will ever look the same again.